Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will
find peace
in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this giant world heroes among us and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in our soul. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find, a place called home, where
times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin' IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Made sure I came in behind you.
See, sneaky. But you're still over there.
But I am ready to talk some IT.
Yep, on Thursday. Got to do it.
Yeah, and tonight we got a grab bag. Little bit of a couple of things. We're going to be starting with songwriting for a couple of videos. Get these waggers, some tips on putting together their songs. And then we're going to go into gear whores because I found, our wall and the channels that we have, I found some cool new gadgets. 2025 has been an awesome year for cool new instruments that totally look different.
Nice. Always good to see.
And to finish, we're going to go into some mix tricks. I got a mixing video that's got some awesome advice on what you're listening to and sometimes what you don't hear and need to fix.
Yep, exactly. Because there's always something to fix.
Yeah. Yeah, and after the last week, we're still kind of recovering here after Ozzy. That was this last week between the wrestling fans and the metal fans.
Yeah,
it was a tough week
for sure. Lots of loss,
but you see a lot of celebration of his music career and the influence he had. I'm seeing it everywhere right now.
Yeah, for sure. And we were doing some, with some of the cover bands I work with, we've been doing some Ozzy songs for a long time, but like you're going to see a lot more of that, obviously, with, if you go to open jams and all that, everyone's going to be playing an Ozzy song here and there.
Yeah, I've heard Paranoid now about like 100 times
in
the last
for sure. It doesn't surprise me.
Oh, and we got the WAG rolling last week. We actually picked out the teams and the genres. So they're cooking this week. And this weekend, we're going to start to hear some of what's been going on over there.
Yeah, can't wait to see what they've been cooking.
So let's see what we're going to be looking at tonight. Go to the IT cave. And,
there it is.
And I did start with videos that I feel could help some of them right now as they're getting used to their collaborators and trying to put together a song in 7 days. That's a challenge.
For sure.
So I wanted to start with a little songwriting talk and something a little more open-ended on the songwriting advice, not necessarily like technical stuff and like you got to do the ABA format or anything like that. More of general good approach to writing a good song.
Sure. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes it is structure, but sometimes it is arrangement. Sometimes it's thinning things out and adding instruments or voices, all different things.
Yeah, well, this one, the reason why I picked this one is because in the past I've mentioned like the campfire approach to some of the great songs out there, and being able to take that song and just go with an acoustic around the fire and sing it is kind of a good litmus test of a good song.
Yep.
And when I saw this, I was like, oh, finally, someone's talking about like my litmus test and how to write songs. A freshy channel with a title that grabbed me right away.
Yeah. And that's one that's, a subject that has interested me also. Like to work on singing and playing at the same time. Certain songs make that easier and just, lend themselves, as you said, to being played and sung at the same time.
And when you think like that campfire approach, it you get the people around the fire singing along with you, and that's when you know you've got a great song because everybody knows the words and everybody's happy to sing it together.
Try some Bye Bye Miss American Pie.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty tough one for the guitar.
But getting everyone singing though is the was the part.
Yeah, well, that's a piece of cake for me.
There you go.
So we're going to start with that to see the campfire test. And this is such an awesome conversation, Songtown. So again, we've been to this channel in the past. That's why it popped up and it hit me right away. Like this is definitely the other songwriting video I'd like to discuss tonight because the 6 questions that they go through to determine whether you really have a song or not. I do that whenever there's an artist who comes in and is like, hey, I've got a song. And I go through a lot of these questions to determine, well, do you really have a song?
Yep, because you certainly have nuggets of a song. You certainly have song ideas. There's certainly, or I have a progression I like. I have a melody I like. There's certain ingredients, but yes, there are certain questions people should ask to narrow down whether this is a song or whether this is just a song fragment.
Yeah, well, this analyzes the song and the intentions behind the artist with the song in a really logical way.
Nice.
So then we're going to shift into our gear stuff because this one, as I was going through like our suggested videos and they throw these little gear ones in everywhere's on our wall, and I saw it like the thumbnail and I'm like, what? This is something for the drums because it looks like just a lighting effect that like, hey, my drums have lights. But it is so much more. And when you can incorporate some good MIDI triggers into your acoustic set, I was like, wow, this was really a unique drum edition that I can see drummers all over the place being like, I got to have one of those.
Yeah, nice.
It's called the DRUMBEAM. And it's going to be coming from Art of Drumming, another channel that, like, we've had a couple of drum nights, and I'm glad that we're getting suggestions from this channel now.
Exactly. And as you said, sometimes it'll be gear stuff, sometimes it'll be technique stuff. There'll be different types of things that come up in the feed, but always good stuff.
When I see gear like that, that makes me want to buy something, and I'm not even a drummer. I'm like, somebody built something right there.
Yep, exactly.
And the other one that I was seeing pop up, a lot of different channels mentioning it. It's kind of like that little pocket gadget we looked at a couple weeks back, where you can almost tell this thing's going to be popular just by the amount of like videos that start popping up on our wall suggesting like, try this and you'll be blown away. This is the Chordcat, and it has there's some approach to it that might be more familiar for those who tend to build their beats and their loops and arrange, with the 16 button kind of approach.
Right.
But it brings some interesting, unique approaches to chord arrangement, rhythm arrangement, and all that, and seems to be really easy to pick up.
It almost looks like a
Musicians.
lighting controller, like bump buttons, like to hit different colors and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I bet you it's totally programmable so that you could control lights with it because
Yeah.
it is well designed.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, that one's going to be coming from Alpha Theta Pioneer DJ USA. I think they're the ones behind it. Coming straight from the horse's mouth.
Very cool.
And this one I thought was a great compliment to this interesting gear and these new toys that we're seeing. Ben Jordan talks about audio gear that tends to not be discussed and thought about, but are kind of essential things in the studio. And for me, I was thinking like back to the 90s and the analog stuff, the patch bays and things that we took for granted. You needed them, but you never really like talked about the importance of a good patch bay.
Sure.
He takes it to the modern level with stuff that I don't necessarily have in my studio, but I want. What he's got there is a MIDI patch bay like nothing I've ever seen. And I wish I had one of these back in the 90s when I had racks and racks of synths.
Sure.
It would have solved so many things.
It's kind of like when we were back in the server rooms, you would have, something where you can use a KVM switch where you can have one keyboard and monitor and mouse and be able to control everything in the rack just by, hitting a couple buttons and go, boom, that server, boom, that server, like work your way right down.
Well, with this, not only can you do all the MIDI routing that you've ever imagined, but it's got built-in filtering and USB routing and just like an all-in-one essential. Like now that I know it exists, I need to get it.
Nice. And is that like modular in terms of the sizes, or is it like you get the size that you need for however many things?
They do have a couple of different ones, but the one he's gonna show is like
the monster.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we've been to the Dr. Bob, the musical surgery, in the past on some of our mixing nights, and I love his channel. I love his approach to describing mixing because to me sometimes it does feel like surgery as well. And the way he describes his techniques and things, you start to realize it is like doctoring when you're in this phase of your song making.
Right.
And why this one caught me is there are these times where you're trying to mix something that you don't necessarily hear, but you know it's there, and recognizing these situations and these things. He does a great job of explaining that and how you can recognize when you're in that kind of situation.
Right. And there's as much art as there is science, and that's where you got to draw that line when it comes to mixing, when it comes to music, when it comes to these things in general, all these creative endeavors. There's the science aspect, and then there's the art aspect, and it's how you ride that line.
Yeah, and nowadays we mix as much visually as we do with our ears, so sometimes you don't hear it, but you see it, and it's like, oh no, that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and that's where some people just they've blown out certain ranges of their hearing where they don't necessarily hear that high pitched squeal that somebody else might hear, and it could also be age, where younger people can hear things.
Andrew Hong has that situation where like his hearing has gotten all tweaked out at times, and he still doesn't know exactly what the root cause of it is. He just knows Like he's not hearing things, certain tones and frequencies that he's supposed to.
Right. And as you said, mixing visually, like you can see the real-time analysis on a channel. Like if there's a vocal coming in, for example, I can see where the energy in the signal is. Like if it's at a low voice, is it a high voice? I can see where the peak is. I can see where most of it is. And you can mix some or EQ some of that, visually, just knowing how much energy is coming in, even if you can't hear in that range. So there are certain things you can do that way, but is it muddy or is it clear? That might be something that you won't be able to tell just by looking at it or just by EQing.
Yeah, and he does get into like things like the mud and where it can kick in and how you can avoid it.
And even a room hum, things like that, or high-pitched squeals. There's all kinds of different things that can happen when you're trying to, look at certain recordings, and different ways to deal with them for sure. There's different ways that are more effective. You can use compressors, you can use gates. There's all kinds of things, but each has an appropriate use.
And I almost threw one more video in. It was going to run a little too long, but I had one that had all the different studio effects that the general, and that one got into exactly what you're saying there. Like this effect is for this and this effect is for that.
And some of them can be used for multiple things, but they're better used in certain situations. Like there's a best case use for where to use the EQ versus where to use a gate, for example.
Yeah, and the real premise of it was the essential ones that the studio needs: the compressors, the EQs, the gates, and the limiters. All things that like you don't necessarily use as much or all the time, but every one of those tends to be part of a process.
They all have a place. Yeah.
So we're going to start with the songwriting. We're going to go gather around the campfire. And he gives a couple of examples of songs that make good campfire songs. But the gist of it is like writing a song that fits this kind of scenario. Like even if you've got this big complex piece with all these arrangements, can the song be simplified into MTV Unplugged?
Boiled down, essentially. Can you get it to where you're just getting the essential chords, the essential melody, and the words, the vocal, you get the point across.
Yeah. And what better name for a channel to give song advice, how to write songs. And they've got it nice and abbreviated at the it's at HTWS. Bet you he got that early on. When you get those short names, they get taken quick. But that's a great one. Oh, he's got the girl from Piano. Nice. She's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
Perfect channel.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we have been here before with our songwriting nights.
Yep. There's the connection that we had.
Yeah, no wonder.
Yep.
No wonder you're so appealing.
What kind of songs should we do around the campfire?
Yeah, let's see what we're going to bring marshmallows to.
S'mores.
Imagine you're on a camping trip. You're sitting around a nice warm fire, the sun is setting, you're surrounded by friends, and someone passes you the guitar because you're the songwriter in the group. And as you scroll through the index of songs you know how to play, what you're really doing is asking yourself this simple question: which songs are going to sound great with just guitar and voice? Which songs, with all the layers of production removed, stripped back to the bare bones, will still sound great? And this is the campfire test. Now, if you're not on a camping trip, but you're actually at home working on a new song, the campfire test is an imaginary scenario that we songwriters can run to analyze the structure of our song and put some of the key elements under a bright spotlight. And this allows us to do something really important, which is to separate songwriting from production. Now, in certain genres and in certain styles of music making, production and songwriting go hand in hand, but there are other times when we really need to separate the two and treat them separately. And when we do this, when we separate production from songwriting, we can then ask a series of really valuable questions about the songwriting process. Is this song in the best form? Are the chords well chosen and appropriate? Is the melody captivating and memorable? Are the lyrics impactful and really saying what I want them to say? Now, there are some artists whose entire catalogue passes the Campfire test easily. Bob Dylan is a classic example, because so many of his songs were written and have been performed solo on guitar. So we're used to hearing those songs with just guitar and voice and a little bit of harmonica. Another example might be Elton John, who again can play most of his catalogue sitting at the piano, where we're just hearing the chords, the melody, and the lyrics. And then there are bands like Radiohead, one of my all-time favourite bands, who have songs like Karma Police, which can absolutely be stripped back and played in a setting like this. This is what you get. This is what you get. This is what you get when you mess with us. But then there are songs like Bloom off the album King of Limbs, which is a mesmerizing blend of glitchy textures and drum beats and polyrhythms and synthy sounds, and of course Tom York's ethereal voice navigating its way through all of those bits. And rather than those bits being the icing on top of the cake, those elements are the cake. They're the ingredients that are crucial to the song. And so taking them away, stripping down that song to a set of chords and a melody and a set of lyrics, it just doesn't work. Or that's a loud bird. So how is the Campfire test useful for songwriters? Well, rather than think of it as a gauntlet your song has to run, perhaps think about it like a question you can ask. What happens when I apply the Campfire test to this song? And asking this question allows you to then see which elements in your song are doing the heavy lifting, or which elements you need to do the heavy lifting. If the song feels like it wants to be expressed as a minimal kind of ballad, well then you're going to need the lyrics and the melody and the chords to really do some heavy lifting. You have to pay close attention to each of those three elements. You can't sit there thinking this will be a great song when the drums come in, because the drums may never come in. And this is sometimes a trap we can fall into when we're writing our songs. We can think too far ahead sometimes about the production and almost lean on the production like a band-aid that's going to cover some of these areas that are a little bit loose, a little bit sloppy, areas that we possibly should have paid more attention to and given more care to. Just a quick reminder that our online songwriting community is now hosting weekly song feedback sessions. So if you're a songwriter who's looking to get meaningful, high-quality feedback on their songs, we're offering a 14-day free trial so you can come along, jump into one of the sessions, and join our growing community of songwriters from all over the world. You'll find a link at the top of the description. Hope to see you there. A beautiful song that's had lots of success is the Barbie song, What Was I Made For?, written by Billie Eilish and Phineas. And that's a great example of a song where it really is very stripped back and you can really hear the chords and the melody and the lyrics so clearly. Yet there is production supporting all of those elements, but the production doesn't stand out as the point. The production is there emphasizing and bringing to life those elements, but those elements, the lyrics, the melody and the chords, really do feel like the point of that song. They're the parts we're supposed to be paying most attention to. And if we just think about that song and how clearly all the elements are laid out, you've got that beautiful melody. I used to float, now I just fall down. What was I made for? What was I made for? Really beautiful, really clear what each of those elements are there to do. On the other hand, if you're working on a song that really feels like it wants to have some glitchy drums and ambient textures driving it, then this is great information to have as you start to craft the song. This allows you to make some deliberate choices about the arrangement and also go forward with that song, knowing that production isn't there to just cover things up. It's actually there as an integral part of the process. Now, you might be thinking that songs with just piano and voice or guitar and voice are obviously going to pass the Campfire test, and songs with drums and bass and synths and all sorts of other things are not going to pass the Campfire test. But that's not necessarily true, because the Campfire test is all about trying to get at the heart of the song, trying to get at the heart of which elements are really driving the song, the most important elements, the hierarchy of elements in each song. Take Come Together by the Beatles. That song has such a famous drum groove at the beginning, and yet we can still apply the campfire test and strip it back and look at what is really driving that song. Look at the bass, look at the chords, look at the riff, look at the lyrics and the melody, see if we can bring it all together and create this minimal version that still carries the song forward.
Yeah, come on, flat top, come groove it up slowly. He got juju eyeball, he got holy roller, he got hair down to his knees. Got to be a joker, he can do what he please. Come together right now over me.
And this is why learning and arranging well-known songs is such a valuable exercise for all songwriters, because it really highlights which elements are doing the heavy lifting, which elements in that song are driving it forward, which are the elements we care about and are drawn to that make that song iconic. Think about the song My Girl and that incredible bass line.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day.
That song is so recognizable with just those elements, the bass line, the lyrics, the melody. And so, of course, there are harmonies, there are horns and strings and all these other things that come in later on. But really, the heart and soul of the song is in that bass line and in that melody and those lyrics. And so that is one of those songs that we could apply the campfire test to and arrange for just guitar and voice or piano and voice. Even with a rock classic like Sweet Child of Mine, we can ask the campfire test question. And yes, the song is recognizable because of that incredible electric guitar intro. But if you think about the chorus, the hook still survives just playing basic chords and keeping the rhythm going.
Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine.
And the cool thing is when you look at the campfire test and break down these basic elements of a song, it makes you realize how malleable some of these songs are. It makes you realize why you can do covers in different genres and at different tempos. I mean, those chords there, we could really have some fun with that and mess with it and make it, I don't know, faster and punkier, you know?
Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine.
Or we could maybe make it a ballad.
Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine.
And this again highlights something really important, that when you've just got a beautiful set of chords, a beautiful melody, and some lyrics, those elements are transferable to different keys. We can play them at different tempos. We can try them out in different styles and genres. Some of those songs that we all love, the ones that are really embedded with lots of production, the kind of production that makes it so quirky and unusual and interesting, those songs are almost one-offs. They can't really be messed with and arranged in different ways. The production is such an integral part of the song. And so it is a real learning curve if you're a performing artist and you're putting together some cover material to perform at certain shows. You'll find out very quickly which songs really lend themselves to being played solo and which songs don't. And every time you do apply the campfire test and go through the process of trying to arrange a complex song in a very minimal way, you learn a lot as a songwriter. You learn a lot about songcraft and you learn a lot about which elements are driving that song forward. So as you're writing your next song, ask yourself some of these questions. What kind of form does this song feel like it wants to take? How much of a role does production play in the creation of this song? Am I using production to perhaps cover up some of these elements that I know need more attention? And if I was forced to play this song around the campfire, what would that sound like? Happy songwriting. Bye.
Oh, I want to check out their songwriting sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That
Definitely.
is so cool that they do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's Kepi Coots and Ben Brumalis. They run How to Write Songs, and you'll find tons of videos on songwriting advice in different genres, different instruments, approaches, lyricism. What a resource.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, well, I really like how he started it out by separating. To do a song this way, you really have to, when you're writing, separate the songwriting from the production. I don't like to be thinking production when I'm trying to write.
Absolutely. And the whole stripping it down to an acoustic guitar, a lot of times that's where a song starts from, whether you're a guitar player or a piano player or whatever your instrument is, the song usually starts as just a single, voice or instrument coming up with something and then building from there. So, a lot of times they build up to 15 different parts, but sometimes it started as just one and you can get all the elements you need into just that voice and guitar or piano.
Well, and like he said, it's about recognizing where the weight is being carried in the song, and with these campfire kind of approaches, this is where the vocals do a lot of the heavy lifting, and the chords and the way that they're played on the guitar is that like lifting under the vocals.
Yeah. Oh, I love the different treatments of Sweet Child of Mine, for example, the ballad version of Sweet Child of Mine. Very, very cool.
Oh, I like the Beatles one. They come together sounds great at campfires.
Definitely. Yep. And again, a lot of it just comes down to the style you choose to play on the acoustic. You can just do choppy little chords, you can do little runs, you can do all kinds of different things, but it's how you combine all the elements that really comes, that really makes the song what it is.
Yeah, and one thing that came to mind when he said, it typically would be like acoustic guitars around the campfire. But if somebody has one of those little box drums,
sure, go on.
That is a campfire instrument if you got one.
Yeah, and even if you don't, I mean, there've been a few times where we were up at a campfire up in a mountain, and a band wanted to rehearse a couple songs before getting on stage, and they didn't have any of their equipment back at the campfire where we were, except the drummer had like the kick pedal was in his car, but we had just the acoustic guitar. So we grabbed the acoustic and we used the acoustic case and we just had the kick drum pedal just hit up against the acoustic case to get a thump. Essentially, it wasn't super loud, but it was enough to get the point across to be able to drive a song and get a little version going with even without drums. And then for a keyboard, somebody had a is it a melodica where there's a tube that you blow into, and then it's just a tiny little octave and a half maybe.
Yeah, it's like a flute with a keyboard.
Yes, exactly. And it was my cousin Jeff was up there playing that, and just being able to play keyboard the way he does, like he could just it doesn't need any power, it doesn't need any amplification, you just blow into it and play the little keys, so he could just go all day on that thing.
Yeah, you guys are musical MacGyvers.
Yep. And we had the only thing we didn't have amplification for was an electric bass, but I had a tiny little speaker that was like a Bluetooth speaker that also happened to have an 1/8 inch out, and I had an 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch adapter, so I just used that, plugged it in direct, and so he had basically a little speaker hanging off the bass that was giving enough boost to the signal to have bass and kick drum and guitar and keys all at the campsite, so it all worked out fine.
You could always do it like they do down south and bust out a jug.
Yeah. You could, but they were trying to practice their set for when they get on stage with the instruments, so it's like he wanted to play the actual bass, play an actual guitar, play an actual keyboard, so it worked out well for that. But it's just a question of you can use even things that are just around you to get enough of the idea across to keep a song together. And to work on the harmonies, for example, and the timing of the parts and things like that.
And if you're lucky enough to like have band members that you go camping with, and you're actually in that kind of relaxed, sitting around the fire environment, the ability to just naturally express in those kinds of moments, so easy.
Yeah. And that's where you see a lot of drum circle stuff happen like that too, where people can just jump in, jump out, add their own thing to it and, just fit into a whole thing and then step out whenever, and it's all good.
Yeah, every musician should experience that at some point.
Yep. Group music.
I'm glad we started with that. That gets my songwriting groove going, and love this site. Thank you guys. Awesome topic there that I've been saying for years, and now there's proof. There is something to Campfire.
The Campfire test. Yep. Love it.
And now we're gonna really ask the questions about, do we have a song? We get a lot of artists that come to us and, hey, I've got a new song. What do you think? And before I'm even listening to the song, I'm asking these kinds of questions in my head and trying to get that kind of answer before I hear the actual music, just to establish what the motivation of the artist when they're making the song.
Yep.
And whether they hit that target.
Yeah. And sometimes people wouldn't even know the motivation. It's just the song just kind of comes to them, or kind of happens, or they kind of hear a melody in their head and they finally get to a keyboard and they're able to hammer out something to remember it later. Because sometimes you only need that little nugget to remember it later. And once you've got that, once you kind of recapture it, then it's fine. You've got it again. But it can be very elusive if you don't catch at least a little piece of it. Even as like a message on your phone or whatever, getting a recording of a little piece of something is definitely important to be able to recreate it later.
Yeah. And if you do ask these questions when you're in the middle of making the song, chances are you're going to write a better song, because you're going to be more conscious of
song elements,
what you're really trying to do. This one's coming from @Songtown USA, freshie here. Nice. And it is so awesome that as YouTube has learned us from the channels we do follow, like the channels that we're getting suggested are just getting better and better and targeted towards community coaching, industry connections for songwriters. Songtown.
Yep. There it is. Nice.
Yeah, and that's @Songtown USA. And this is a discussion between these two on 6 questions that they ask to establish whether this song is ready to be an official song.
Nice.
Hey Songtown, I'm Marty Dodson here with Clay Mills. Today we're going to talk about, if you can't answer these 6 questions, you don't really have a song.
Man.
Pretty profound, huh? Let's dig in.
Number 1, what do you want the listener to feel?
You mean you have to think about that?
I don't know if you have to think about it, but you have to accomplish it. And if you can't say, after you've written it, if you can't say that, then I think you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to a song the other day that someone played me, and the verse was really dark and moody and, kind of sad. And then the chorus music hit and it was bouncy and happy. I'm like, whoa. By the end of the chorus, I'm like, what am I supposed to feel here? And I'm not saying that you can't have a song that starts out one way and goes another, but that's not what the lyric was about. And so I think at the end of the day, when somebody hears the song, they got to know how you want them to feel. Am I supposed to be happy when I hear this? Am I supposed to be like wanting to cut my wrist because it's so depressing? Like, just tell me one thing. Give me one emotion.
Yeah.
I don't want to be torn and confused and going, how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah, in my classes, I talk about generally you want one emotion unless the singer is confused.
Right.
So if the singer's feeling angry and sad and frustrated, you can try to incorporate all those things, but that gets pretty complicated. Most great songs are just about one emotion.
Yes.
It's about anticipation of seeing that person you love, or it's about the feeling of being with that person, all that kind of stuff, but it focuses on that one emotion.
And really amplifying that one emotion so that the audience feels it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, does my song have a clearly defined melodic hook?
Yes.
So they teach CPR now to the song Staying Alive, because everybody that's ever heard that song can go, staying alive, staying alive.
Or you're pressing is that the chest compressions where you go,
Yes. You don't want to be going and doing the breaths with that beat, I don't think, but yeah.
Yeah, so often you brought up a good point. It's that rhythmic hook. And a lot of songs that we review in Songtown will have a nice melody, but there's not a rhythmic figure to go along with those notes. A lot of people think melody is just about notes, but half of the battle, if not more, is the rhythm of that melody.
Yeah.
That's what makes it memorable. So much so that you could go and you want to hear bump, bump.
Yeah.
You don't have to hear any notes. You can hear a rhythm.
Exactly.
And so that's, to me, rhythm might be slightly more important, especially these days, than the actual notes and chords. But I'm kind of old school where I like it all. I like great rhythm, great melody, melodies that fit nicely in the chord. I like all of it.
There's, a current song that I think does that really great is Pink Pony Club.
I haven't heard it.
Oh my goodness. I hear that song everywhere. But it's like, Pink Pony Club, I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club.
Yeah.
And you just can't get it out of your head, when you hear that song.
Yeah.
What's the next one on our list? Number 3.
Imagine you're at a concert and you're hearing a song for the first time and that first chorus comes on. This is great. By the time that second chorus comes around, I want to be singing it, So the next one, the number 3 on our list would be, can the audience sing your song by the second chorus? I got this firsthand. I got to stand on the side of the stage and watch an artist, major artist, sing one of my songs, and the song wasn't out yet. So the audience had never heard the song. But by the time that second chorus came around, it had enough repetition and it was memorable enough that they were singing along to it, and that's what you want. You want the crowd to be so engaged and the melody to be so memorable. It's a great feeling when that happens.
Absolutely. I wrote a song called Fire It Up with a Canadian artist named Johnny Reed and Alan Frew, and Johnny sent me a picture of him at a festival a video, the first time he played that song. And he's singing along and he goes, chorus 2. And he lets the audience sing the chorus. And it's very repetitive and simple to learn. And that really highlighted to me, the importance of having that chorus that people can sing along with.
Yeah, and even if they didn't know all the words, if I remember correctly, they could sing Fire It Up in each line of the chorus.
Yeah.
So even if they didn't know all the exact words, they could still sing Fire It Up over and over and over and participate in the song.
Absolutely.
What's number 4?
Number 4 is, will a listener know why this song matters? Sometimes I'll hear a song and I'll go, it's well crafted, but I don't really understand why the writer wrote it or what it's supposed to do out in the world or how I'm supposed to feel. And I think, you should be able to ask a listener, why does this song matter? Who is this song going to matter to? And then be able to say, oh, this is going to matter to everybody who's fallen in love before, or this song is going to matter to everyone who's lost a loved one.
Right.
And if you can answer that question of, is this song going to matter? Will people understand why it matters and who it's going to matter to? Then you probably got a good song.
Yeah, we used to call that the give a crap factor. Yeah. Like, it's important. I can remember many songs in the writing room. We'll stop and go, is anybody really going to care about this? And that's something that I think is an important question to ask. And what you're basically saying is, are we writing something that's going to make people care?
Yeah.
You know, do we care about it? Are they going to care about it? And why are they going to care about it?
Exactly. Clay, what's number 5? Hit us.
What's going to make people hit replay? What's going to make them listen to it again? And we've talked about some of it, a great catchy chorus, you know, but it's true. You don't want listeners that just hear your song once and go, oh, that's cool. You know, you want them to listen 10 times in a row, because every time they hear it, they hear something different. The song says something different to them emotionally with the lyrics. And I think a lot of that goes to, are you just writing a song that sounds like everything else? Or are you adding something unique and different to your song?
Yeah.
You know, and I think you've got to have enough things in that song that keeps people's attention, keeps them coming back and listening. I mean, that's a one-time listen does nothing for us.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think contributes to people listening?
You know, I think it can be something that moves them emotionally,
Yes.
something that makes them want to dance, something, you know, that they want to get up out of their chair and dance around when they hear this song, something they can sing along with, they feel like they're participating, something that's got hooks, whether they're lyric hooks or melody hooks or rhythmic hooks. You know, all those things make people go, oh, I want to hear that again. You know, that song makes me feel good. That's, I mentioned the Pink Pony Club. I think that's a lot of what that song does. It's like there's parts in it that you can really easily sing along with it. There's cool rhythmic sections. It changes rhythm. And it's just got all kinds of hooks. So those are all kinds of things you need to think about because you want people to hit replay and hear that song again.
Or it could just be brutal honesty, something that, because you hit the nail on the head, I think, when you said that people like the emotion. And one time after a show I played, someone came up to me and they mentioned a song that I had out that was on the radio. And they said, I listened to that song over and over and over, and it got me through the hardest part of my life. You know, I was taking care of a sick spouse, and that song got me through those hard times. And like, wow. And that person was listening to that song because it made them feel a certain way, and they wanted to keep feeling that way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard people say, I put that song on anytime I want to cry. You know, if they're feeling, you know, emotional and they're like, I just want to cry, get a glass of wine and cry, I'm going to play that song, you know.
Yeah.
That's one of the keys. Number 6 is, can someone summarize your song in 1 or 2 sentences?
Oh.
So if you ask someone, what's this song about? They should be able to say, this is about a man wanting to be the best lover he can be for his partner.
Right.
Or, you know, some 1 sentence or 2 sentence answer about what it's about. And in my book, Song Building, I talk about, that's right. I talk about blueprinting, and that's kind of that idea of like, I want to blueprint my song so that I communicate to the listener exactly what I want them to hear and understand. And so I test that out by asking people, you know, ask my wife, what's this song about to you? And she'll tell me. And if that's pretty much my blueprint, I know I did a good job. If that's not what I meant, I go, okay, I'm confusing her. I need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, great example of that is Sarah Davis and the artist Gail, 2 Songtown members, wrote a song called ABCDEFU. Mm-hmm. And you instantly know what that song's about because of the FU. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want. We want people to be clear about how they're supposed to feel, what the song's about. And if people can't tell you what your song's about, then you're not going to hook them in. Yeah. Especially today. I think it's different. Back in the drug days of the 60s and 70s, people could write these like songs that meant nothing. It was like abstract art. But today, I think the world has got so many messages coming at people that often that clarity of your message will cut through where the abstract no longer is cutting through like it used to.
Yeah. So ask yourself those 6 questions. If you can answer those 6 questions, you're probably on the right track.
Yeah, right on.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you appreciate the content, hit the subscribe button and help us grow. Shout out to Sweetwater Music. It's where Marty and I get all our musical gear. Great people. We'll see you guys around town. Right on.
Man, I do appreciate that.
Also love Sweetwater. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I feel wiser hearing these things. I mean, these are the kinds of discussions, we've had when it comes to like, what is the purpose of a song or this song? And, right from the beginning, each question was a look at what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish emotionally to the listener, or like get out of myself as a songwriter?
Yeah. And, as far as summarizing a song, this is a story about Jack and Diane. I mean,
Yeah.
Right there, like that's you're already there, halfway home.
Well, I like that they kept that one for the end, and the importance of it to be able to describe what that song's supposed to be about in a quick, with today's attention spans, you got to get them in one sentence.
And actually, the one thing I was going to mention was relatable characters, as far as things to hook people into a song, because so many songs, it could be in an abstract way. It doesn't have to be the song, the title character of the song or whatever. A lot of times it is, but a character in a song that people can relate to. It doesn't have to be somebody in their life, but it could be a character that they've read about or seen in a movie or whatever. They can relate to that type of character.
Yeah, and Ange is not wrong. Concept. When they were talking about, are people going to play it again? Are there the repetition factor and songs that people connect to? What do you emphasize about like motion? It's not just mental motion. Sometimes it's physical motion, and whether you're getting them to dance or you're getting them to cry, they're probably going to play that song again every time they want to.
Yeah. Now, one that I always liked for a story and for a song that takes you on a journey is a song like Atom Heart Mother by Pink Floyd, where it's a 23-minute long song. So it's a very, very long song. The first song on the album, Atom Heart Mother Suite. But it takes you on a journey throughout so much of it. And there's almost no words throughout the whole thing. So it's mostly just music and sound effects and whatnot. But it takes you on a journey start to finish. It's not just repeating the same thing over and over, but there are recognizable themes throughout that kind of take you on this whole journey.
Yeah, when just the music alone hits you emotionally, and you don't even need words to say anything, that's powerful music. His point about when he was saying like a verse that's really like dark and moody, and a chorus that all of a sudden is bright. I've run into that so many times with some starting out songwriters where I can't tell what mood they're in. Like it's almost like, we go from like one extreme to the whole other side. And musically, when he said like it's a matter of the words didn't feel like they were connecting the two moods properly.
Right.
That's the kind of thing to avoid if you are trying to do drastically different moods in your parts, but the words don't seem to jive with the musical mood that's going on.
It's kind of an emotional dissonance between the two. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not to say it doesn't work. There is always going to be someone out there who makes the rules work for them. But if your emotions are shifting like that and it doesn't make sense with whatever story you're telling, that can be disjoining to a listener.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that you can do to fix that is, to just take the chorus. The chorus is probably great on its own, and the verse is probably great on its own. But if they don't fit together, you can just make two different songs out of it. So, the chorus is part of this song, which it could even, instead of being a chorus, might be the verse in this other song. And
Well, hopefully you're asking that third question that they were talking about, like, what is the emotion you're trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to make the listener feel?
And a lot of times when you get those disjointed situations, it turns out it started as a song that was all verse, or, that was the whole idea. But somebody said, no, there needs to be something to break it up. Like you had 3 verses, but you can't just go verse, verse, verse. They're like, oh, you have to put a chorus in. So they try to make something fit, and it doesn't quite work. So you have to rework it. I mean, don't have to scrap the whole thing, but just, save that idea for another song and now try to build a different chorus, maybe a different set of chords, maybe a different mood, same idea, maybe shift to minor and do something that's more sad and then come back to a happier thing. But again, it has to do it in a way that would make sense.
Well, that's where, like, working with progressive musicians, ones who really like to do fancy stuff, when they feel like they have to make a change, sometimes they just keep trying to do like fancy shifts and force things where sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes it's a simple nudge to a different part, and it doesn't have to be this complex transition where it's like, whoa, I just shifted from 0 to 60.
Yeah. And there were some sites, some of the song building sites or songwriting sites that were helpful for that, where you could put in chord progression and it would like tell you, okay, most songs went, from the 1-4-6 to the 5, but 3% of songs went from the 1-4-6 to the 3 or whatever. Like, there's different odd choices to take, but ones that would make sense in terms of music theory, so that's where you have a certain palette to work from. You could grab any chord from anywhere and justify it in any way that you want. Yeah. But in order for it to like make sense in a musical way, it should contain certain notes and it shouldn't contain certain notes unless you're going for that particular kind of a dissonant sound.
Yeah. Or you're really, really good and creative, because you can make anything work if you really figure out what you're doing there and why you're doing something unusual, but yet it sounds like something that fits.
Exactly.
Oh, hi, Maha. Welcome.
What's happening? Songtown it was.
So that, songwriting gold there. His book, if it's got, the same kind of tips that they gave here, that's a well worth read.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yep. So that's at Songtown USA. Awesome discussion. Like, that's exactly the kind of intimate songwriting discussion between two great songwriters and how they look at things.
Yep. And one thing that we talk about is, genres and styles, and changing the style or genre of a song can really, get you through a spot like that also, where if something doesn't make sense, it could be that it doesn't make sense in that style. But now if you change the rhythm, you change the way that you're strumming chords or breaking them up, all of a sudden it can change the whole feel of the song, where now it makes more sense than it did.
A good songwriter shouldn't pick the genre. The song, what would work best in a certain genre, usually the song kind of defines it, dictates it. If the songwriter forces it to be in the genre they tend to like to go to, even though they know they're writing a song that should be done in its proper genre, a good songwriter should be able to change their genres to fit the song properly, and then go nuts and try it every other way. And it's not to say one genre necessarily is the best fit for a song.
Yep, exactly. And it might change. Like I had, one that I started writing and it just felt like a country song for no reason. And I'm not a country fan, really. I mean, I never really had much experience with country growing up. It was mostly rock, classic rock.
I seen you in a Stetson.
You've seen me in a Stetson.
You did look like a natural.
That is one thing where all of a sudden country stuff, I hear a lot of vocalists that use a very deep voice in some of these country things. And I have a very deep voice and it doesn't seem to fit in a lot of like rock settings, but in a country scenario, it could work. Anyway, the song. It just felt like a country song. So it was one of those where it's like, okay, I'll just let the song be a country song. You know, it makes no difference. It doesn't have to go into a box. You know, I can just write it how it feels.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot more lenient over the years when it comes to what genre is this song gonna end up being.
Exactly. Let it be its own thing.
Let it be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let it beam. Let it
go.
beam. Because now we're up to the cool little things I ran across that I was like, damn, 2025 has really started to produce some interesting MIDI controllers across the board. And when you get like a drum MIDI controller like this, which gives the drummer the possibility of actually playing keyboard parts in this one little strip here, and switch, like you've got digital drums, you've got a potential for chromatics, because you see those lights there?
Yep.
They're sections, and that is capable of changing from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. And you can break that thing down into an 8-section drum kit.
Nice.
The possibilities here are insane.
I like it.
And
are you hitting it with sticks, or are you?
Yes, this is meant for a drummer to just accent what they're already doing, and you don't have to hit it with sticks, but the fact that it was made for this, it's an add-on.
Right.
This is the new cowbell.
Sure. When I heard beam, I was thinking sometimes, like we've talked about a couple of them, where they actually, scan down with lasers, and it's when you break a certain plane or when you hit on a table or whatever. Some of those are a beam-like, where they're actually using a beam.
When I saw it in the thumbnail and I saw the name, that's what I was thinking too. Like, like that MIDI controller that had the cameras and could like read gestures. I was thinking this is going to be something like that, but it's a very advanced kind of drum pad with a brain. And the channel, we have been here, our drum nights. So glad we found this place, because I didn't see this anywhere else until I saw it here first.
Nice.
And this is at the Art of Drumming, and you will find drum videos galore.
Very cool.
How to mix them, how to play them, and how to check out new cool MIDI-based gear that I think is going to change some drummers' essentials on their kits in the future. This one's a worthy consideration.
It looks like it could save you some space too.
$450, but I don't see that as super expensive, considering what it does for a kit and how much other kit parts cost. That's right in line with affordable add-on.
And it's probably just a 1/4 inch out, XLR out.
Yeah, it is a MIDI driven brain.
Nice.
All right, wait till you see this in action.
Yeah.
Hey, Art of Drumming community. A few months ago, the guys from AFK Audio reached out and showed us their newest product, the DRUMBEAM. Let's check it out. The DRUMBEAM is a MIDI controller that lets you customize kind of everything. You have a full service that's triggering, so you can play it here, 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 and here. No matter where you do, it's always the same sensoring. You have an LED bar on front and in the back, so you have indicators where you're hitting it, or if you divide it into different sections, what we're going to do in a second, you can see exactly where you need to hit the DRUMBEAM. You have 2 buttons on the down to switch presets. Then you have a MIDI in and out port with mini jacks, so it comes with a cable just like this, so you can use it as a MIDI controller for whatever MIDI device you want to use. There is a trigger in and then a USB-C to power it, or in this case, I've just connected it via USB-C to my laptop and I'm running Logic, and that's just it. Now, if you want to customize it or work on whatever preset you want to create, there is a Wi-Fi router built in to the DRUMBEAM. So you just open up your laptop, smartphone, tablet, whatever, connect it to the Wi-Fi of the DRUMBEAM and open up the web app. And then you can say, create a new preset, and this is what you end up with. You can choose how many sections you want it to have. It goes up to 12. You can set a color. In this stage, it's for the whole thing, but we can customize it further in just a second. The spacing is a thing you can choose, so how far they are spaced apart. Now you can work on every segment by itself. So for example, it's this one. You can set the color. You can also set different colors for front and back. So for example, now you have a darker blue in the front, lighter blue in the back. If that's something you want to have, you can do that. For example, you could have like the audience just see one color throughout the whole thing, but on your side where you're playing, you can really see what's going on and have them separated. It's pretty cool. You can also dim the lights. You could also turn off the front LEDs if you're like in a very dark scenario and you don't want it to be that bright. So as you can see, there's a lot of customization going on. You can choose the velocity range per pad or per section that you've created, and a CC range. We're gonna get to the CC thing later on. Now, another cool thing you can do is create different sections. So you can have one that's wider and then a few that are smaller. So for example, if there's one thing that you really need to hit while you're playing drums or something and you don't want to miss it, just make it larger. If you have one that you only need to start the song, you can have it smaller because you have time to aim correctly and just hit it. The DRUMBEAM lets you store up to 64 different presets. So for example, let's go to this thing that I've created just to have a demo of what it might look like with different colors, 5 sections, and you can really make this your own. You can also make it part of your stage design, light, whatever. If you say one song, I want to have it in a purple setting, then the next one is all green. But now that we've talked a little through the details, the software and whatsoever, let me just show you a few quick and easy things that you can do with the DRUMBEAM. So the first one I want to show you is just a preset I built to mimic a piano keyboard. It's just basically white and black piano keys, just in purple and blue. And to show you how sensitive the whole thing is, you can also just play it with your fingers. The DRUMBEAM is not just a cool thing for drummers, but if you're a percussion guy and you're playing with your hands, you play bongos, congos or whatever, and you want to have just a little pad thing on top, you can definitely use this, and you're a lot more flexible than with like a pad with 12 sections, 9 sections, because it's all just in one line and you can reach it easily. The next preset I've prepared is just one that basically lets you play a software drum kit. Those two scenarios, one where you just play a keyboard, synth or whatever, and the electronic drum kit thing, are nice little thingies if you have the DRUMBEAM as the only instrument you have with you. For example, if you play a small gig, you don't want to bring a drum kit, just bring the DRUMBEAM and a laptop and it's fine. But where it gets a lot of fun as a drummer, for me especially, is once you start building hybrid drum kits. I just use it, I have just 3 notes on here. And that's enough to just give something new to your drum performance. Let me give you an example. Well, yes, this was a pretty simple example with just 3 notes, but it really added something to the performance, don't you think? Now here's another preset I built, and it's not just a new color. I have 3 samples on the 3 things. First one is just a tambourine loop. The second one is a synthy thing, and the third one is just a... So let's see what you can come up with just 3 more sounds. Well, yes, the crash sound wasn't necessary, but it was just another thing to show you what options you have. It's not only drum loops, drum sounds, synthy sounds, keyboards, synthy loops. You can put whatever sound you want on there. Now playing notes, loops, samples, whatever with it is one thing, but another really cool thing this little guy lets you do is send CC commands. And what this means is you can use the DRUMBEAM to map whatever things you have going on in your DAW, or also with synthes or other devices that let you map external control surfaces. So what I've done here, to give you a very simple example of what this could do, is here I have just a synthy loop, and up here I control the cutoff frequency of just an EQ. So it's just a high cut, and the frequency here is the highest and here is the lowest. So if I turn on the loop, you're not gonna hear it, but so you could play around with things like that, where you just work the frequency of an equalizer, the amount of compression. This, I'd say, is the coolest thing about the DRUMBEAM, that it's just uniquely what you make it. Now, all the ideas and the examples I showed you were just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what the DRUMBEAM is capable of. You can come up with all your own ideas, and if you put 3 musicians next to each other, they'll come up with all sorts of different ideas. And that's what's cool about the DRUMBEAM, and that's what's gonna be so much fun if you get your hands on one and you have the chance to play around with it. I hope you liked the video. Make sure to check out the AFK Audio website in the description. And if you have some ideas what they should add, what you would do with the DRUMBEAM, let us know in the comments. Hit the bell, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and I hope to see you next time.
Very cool.
Did I tell you that's a sexy piece of a little electronic gear?
I like how programmable it is, for sure. You can do a lot of stuff with that.
I like that it's very natural for drummers. Like, that is really a drum MIDI extension. But even not being a drummer, I'd want one of those, if not maybe 2, just for the uniqueness of, like, you know how keyboardists are playing multiple keyboards. I could see a keyboardist doing this with a stick in his other hand.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you could do the number of zones that you want. So if you only made it 5 zones, you could play a pentatonic scale, or 6 zones. You could make a pentatonic scale, with the root on top again, so that you could just go nuts on it, and it always sounds good because it's just in the right key.
Technically, if you program those slots for whatever key you're playing in, which is easy to transpose in MIDI, so you could shift scales and just transpose it real quick, and all the
just 12 presets.
you can't play a wrong note.
Exactly.
You're always in scale.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where, he was talking about when he had it separated as 12, that is a full piano keyboard. So you can play all the chromatic notes, but you don't always need to play all the chromatic notes. And a lot of times it's better to be able to just play the notes that you want to play.
I think the drummers would more likely want to just program the notes that you can't go wrong with.
Exactly.
Like
and there's your
these
pentatonic
notes,
scale. Yeah.
it doesn't matter where I hit on it. These notes are going to work.
Exactly. Yep.
And what he was doing there at the end with the EQ and getting that kind of like, dude, that's a whole new level of drumming.
Yeah, that's adding some DJ effects into your, being able to do it live on the drum kit. Pretty
yes, cool. And DJs are the other target customer base I'm seeing probably jumping on these things.
Sure.
Yeah, I brought up their website. It's afk-audio.de is the makers of this, and you can get more information on it. Any drummer out there, if you get one of these, I would love to hear like your review and feedback.
Like I had 2 of them. Nice.
Well, that's what I was thinking. One wouldn't be enough for like a really how drummers like to have certain things on both sides with slightly different sounds.
Yeah.
Cymbals especially, and 2 of these spread nicely means no matter what side I'm on, I'm on the right side.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
So that was at Art of Drumming. Love that preview. Couldn't find anything else too much right now. This is like really new and interesting.
Love it.
The DRUMBEAM. And now we're going to the Chordcat. This is more of like a groove maker, arranger, the kinds of things that we used to get in like the Casios back in the day, but now they're more designed for like the drummers and the percussionists.
Yep. And more options. A lot of times you can use, individual buttons for triggering samples, like they were doing. Same thing we were just doing with the bar there. You could trigger samples. You could trigger, one shots. You can do all kinds of different things.
Yeah. And it's just a different way of doing the triggering versus that last one. But all these new MIDI controllers and the different approaches, the 16 pad format has definitely like become the dominant standard with a lot of drummers. But what I thought was interesting with this was the way that like it's separating those 16 kind of things into 2 different clusters, and the cost on this and the reaction just early on, like this is just getting out there. And when I start seeing like 10, 15 channels on our feed just talking about it, it's kind of hard to ignore.
Yep. Gotta check out the devices.
This one's coming from at Pioneer DJ USA, and I think these are the manufacturers. Yeah, and this one is kind of targeting the DJs as well. DJs need to trigger sound, lights, and getting people to clap their hands and dance.
Got to get the room moving.
So we're going to get a introduction into the Chordcat groovebox.
Groovebox.
It's got a groovy name.
Yeah, man.
Imagine a device that transforms your musical ideas into reality, whether you're in the studio or on the move. Hello, I'm Matt with Alpha Theta, and I'm excited to introduce Chordcat, a revolutionary groovebox designed to ignite your creativity and simplify music production. Chordcat is a compact 8-track groovebox equipped with the innovative chord cruiser function. Whether you're a seasoned producer or a developing musician, Chordcat is your companion for generating musical ideas anytime, anywhere. Designed for portability, Chordcat has an innovative 110,000 interactive chord library with a number of tools built in to help you explore and create. An XY pad on the right lets you control parameters, effects, and navigate chords. A keyboard is also featured across the bottom, which can play single notes or one-key chords. The innovative Chord Cruiser mode will help you build your own custom chord banks. The exclusive Chord Cruiser algorithm will suggest multiple musically compatible chords. You can then easily assign your favorite to a single key on the keyboard, which triggers the next set of chord suggestions automatically. The simple workflow helps you easily cruise around the database, capturing the vibe and emotion you are going for. Chordcat also includes 18 preset chord progressions called chord sets, 13 of which are inspired by various musical genres such as house and future bass, while the remaining 5 are traditional chord presets such as major and minor. You can use them as they are, or use them as a starting point to create your own unique progression. With 3 built-in effects, you can add energy and character to your music. Delay adds spatial depth to your sounds. And Ducker adds dynamics and a sense of movement to the music. All of the effects are controlled via the XY pad, and in addition, the filter can be recorded with your sequence. An arpeggiator creates melodic patterns from your chords. With running direction, Chordcat lets you change the playback direction of 4x4 step sequence patterns by pressing a single button. This lets you explore your patterns by experimenting with 4 different playback directions. You can go right, down, clockwise, and counterclockwise to discover new rhythms and phrases. Chordcat includes a diverse sound library of 145 instruments and 16 drum kits to help you build your tracks and patterns. Chordcat's built-in sounds give you a rich set of options for versatile creativity. You can also shape the character of each sound with the built-in low-pass filter and amp envelope. On Chordcat, you can set your key and scale to ensure every note fits harmonically. Compatible chords are suggested with the key and is visually indicated with LED lights. The touch-based interface includes a 16-step sequencer on the left, which you can also use for selecting tracks and patterns. Chordcat comes with 8-track playback, allowing you to play up to 8 different sounds at once. Within each track, you can create up to 16 patterns per track. You can use the pattern chain feature to create an arrangement of the patterns. The 16-step sequencer features up to 8 pages, giving you a maximum of 128 steps to build your compositions. You can also easily integrate Chordcat into your existing setup of MIDI instruments with MIDI out, through, and MIDI in, along with the USB-C port. The stereo 1/4-inch outputs allow you to connect Chordcat to any audio setup, and there's even a headphone out so that you can create on the go. Chordcat also works with the Chordcat Manager software for Windows and Mac. It allows you to easily export the patterns to your DAW or import patterns from your DAW into Chordcat. The software also allows you to back up your entire Chordcat project library. Chordcat comes bundled with Ableton Live Lite, a powerful music production software. By using Chordcat together with Ableton Live Lite, you can build a seamless workflow that takes you from sketching ideas to full-scale music production. Chordcat has a sleek, lightweight design that slips easily into your bag. Powered by 6 AA batteries or USB-C power, it's ready to go with you anywhere. As you can see, Chordcat is more than just a groovebox. It's your music creation companion, giving you the power to create music anywhere that inspiration finds you, and move your ideas back to the studio whenever you want. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a comment below. If you want to find out more about Chordcat or see more products from Alpha Theta, be sure to visit our website alphatheta.com or catch us on our social media channels at Pioneer DJ USA.
Nice.
Oh, I do want to see some more products. That was so ingenious. That's the
Yep.
word. Like it's so creatively approached. I mean, doing the chording on the right side that way with the loop and part arranging on the left side. DJs must love
Yeah.
this thing.
And it also it feels like the way they were using it. It feels like on the left is, you know, whether it's all touch screen or whether it looks like buttons on the left and it looks like a touch screen on the right, because they were definitely sliding across everything in that right.
Yeah. It looks like a touch screen on the right. The buttons is going to be the natural approach for those who like, you know, turning on a loop, turning off a loop, like, you know, on, off, on, off, on. I don't see like pounding on those like a drum pad. They look more like chiclet buttons, but
Yeah,
maybe.
but again, it's all about, you know, what you're trying to get across is the idea. You're trying to get ideas into a form, and this is, you know, it's like taking one of the loopers that we have for guitar and just, you know, integrating all the chord ideas in there, so you don't have to memorize all the chord shapes and different claws. You just, you know, pick. Oh, I want to do things that are in a minor key. I want to do things in a major key, or I want to have, you know, program your own progressions and get things just kind of locked in there to get an idea flowing. And then whether you're working on the melody, working on the hook, working on the words, you know, it can get you into a creative place to be able to get ideas like that out.
And a lot of times DJs will like set like loop music to a certain key, and being able to just like say like give me a chord in the key that my loop is going at, and that's where the dynamic live DJ effects, especially with that slider, the way he turned the delay on, finally something that actually comes with unique effects that complement it. Because normally I'd want to do my effects over in a VST or something. This comes with perfect DJ
You
type
can throw it
effect.
right in there, and having the controls right at your fingertips, just, you know, understanding that you have to hit this button and get that, this button to hit this, you know, once you get used to the control layout, it looks like it would be very intuitive.
And it's totally ready to like be portable on the go. Was it, they say AA batteries? I mean, I buy my AA's now in like 100 packs. So plus it can do it USB powered. So, you know, if you are like DJ with a laptop, that can be running off the laptop. And as long as you better be plugging in your laptop if you're a DJ, because sucks when that battery goes
Should
out.
always be plugged in.
But that I can see now why I saw all that noise out there. Whether you're a DJ or you're just wanting to kind of like get your song arrangement together, the fact that you can send it from your DAWs into is awesome. Like I would go do my arrangement on the DAW side, load it in there, and then hit the stage.
Exactly. Or, you know, tweak it, even like you get it from the DAW into the box and then see how it works in the box, you know, and even just to take practice on the go, you know, sit in a park, and you can sit with, you know, like I said, the AA batteries, and you sit in the park and do all your stuff right there.
What's awesome about the amount of storage it does give you and what you can do there, you could go hit that stage without your laptop, just this. And even if you didn't have a power source, you could run it off the batteries. It's nice to like be able to integrate these devices with computers and laptops, but it's awesome when they do the job and I don't have to bring a computer on that stage because I'm reluctant to do that.
I know people who do, and I know people who wish they could, but just they won't.
Computers are not reliable enough to be an integral piece of audio hardware.
It can't be
like that laptop could fail, it could
and that's the
fall.
thing is if it's if it's the song can't be played without the laptop part, like if we're at that point, that's where
what I'm saying.
As long as you got something else that you can fill in with, like if the
my
laptop goes, you can be like, okay, we're gonna skip that song and move on to this one instead. Like as a band, you talk about this, not over the mic, but
if I just had a MIDI controller and I was going on the stage, I would need a computer to be the synthesizer, be the sampler, play the sounds.
And if it crashed, you'd have no sounds.
I'd rather have my sampler built into the keyboard at that point for stage, and I use the computer samples when I'm in a comfy studio environment,
looking for more of a stage piano.
where my computer can't fall off of a stand.
I mean, on stage, having a stage piano, makes sense. Where it's a piano, and it's when you hit the keys, you're going to get a piano sound, and you're good. You don't need a lot of variety of the sounds. You have that there to play the piano parts, as if you were sitting at a grand piano.
Yeah, and as long as you got the sounds, whether you have to go to something to make the sound or the sounds are built in, you pay a little bit more to have the sounds.
And the sounds need to be good quality.
But yeah. Well, this looks like it's got some good sounds and some good things to start with. And the fact that you can feed it parts from the computer, it's all groove centric, definitely DJ worthy. But I could see others who are not DJs who really want to take care of their looping and all the fancy shit they do while they're busking. Like something like this complements a one-man band.
And I can see it helping a lot with songwriting, just again with its suggestions of what chords to put with what chords. Like when you start building some of these custom templates and it starts suggesting chords for you, you're exploring different different ideas than you might normally explore when it comes to the different chord sounds and how they contrast or complement each other.
The as far as a chord tool goes, it takes me back to Band in a Box. Like the usefulness of having that like chord genius that I could just say, okay, give me these chords and riff them for me on whatever instrument.
And there were even some chord packs that we had talked about at one point where they were mostly just different progressions that they just went through all these different popular progressions and laid them all out as a chord pack so that you can just kind of drag them in and just boom, work from that and build around it.
Yeah, and the arpeggiation tools, the other extras that they threw in there. I mean, it was like, here's everything and the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I had friends that were big fans of that software way back.
Oh yeah, in the 90s, that was that was the software. Okay, so Chordcat does have at pioneerdjstore.com, because I'm curious now. Okay, I will take your cookies. They better be chocolate chip. Okay, $3.29. That's reasonable for everything it does. I'm intrigued.
Absolutely. And as you say, you can feed it, and it has a lot of good features, a lot of good layers, a lot of good intuitiveness with the workflow. And you see what I was saying as far as the buttons and touchpad.
Yeah, chances are those buttons can take a beat.
Oh, I would be sure they can.
You probably can. Yeah. They're kind of looking like inviting me to play them.
Yep. Very cool.
But it's a nice design, small form factor. A lot of DJs really don't necessarily have a lot of table space, and the essentials. A laptop is kind of one of them. The good DJs tend to have two, because worst case, if one does go out, you're not dead in the water.
Yep.
You throw something like this in the middle with something that looks like a turntable, you're wickety wickety.
Getting it done.
Yep. So that was at Pioneer DJ USA, another interesting piece of
Very
gear.
cool.
And now we're gonna talk about some of the unspoken gear. This is where the shh in IT
The secret
comes
stuff.
in. There's certain things that you're going to have in a studio that aren't like your show off gears, like, oh, look at all these guitars and compressors and the fancy stuff, but we don't tend to show off our patch bays and sometimes the audio interface. You hear it but you don't see it. And um, the different things he talks about here as far as gear goes, they're the kind of gear that connect all the other cool gear together.
And this is where I've known people who buy all the, you recommend the hardware that they should be getting for this, that, and the other thing, and they get all the best hardware, but then they buy like the cheapest, cheap cable they could find to hook it all together. And you're like, no, you were so close. It's like we wanted to spend the money on the things that we needed to spend it on, but you spend that little bit extra on quality cables and you're not having to chase down problems all the time and having to replace cables with other cheap cables and then chasing down more problems.
A lot of musicians starting out that way, especially if they, as a keyboard, especially back then, I needed tons of cables for all the different synths that I had. You learn to buy good cables eventually. Because if you have to keep buying, especially guitarists, if you're stomping on them, if they're like really in the band room and on stage, it's worth a little bit more.
I mean, I'll say that the last time that I bought instrument cables for playing bass or playing guitar, I bought Mogami cable. I bought, one 15 foot, 20 foot, whatever it is, Mogami cable, straight, and one that was straight and 90 degree at the other end. And I have not had to buy another cable. I have them both. They're both in perfect condition. They both play wonderfully. And if there's ever a problem, I can go in and they'll replace it immediately because you spend a little bit more and you get a solid cable.
It's like going with those monster cables when you're dealing with audio video cables and things like that. And the monsters, well shielded extra layer just in case you do actually crunch it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I don't roll over those cables. I had a bad habit of rolling over headphone cables, so I used to go through headphones all the time because the chair would catch the headphone cable, and I'm a heavy guy, so me rolling over on an office chair on a floor, rolling over this cable, it's like gonna slice.
That's like an 18-wheeler running over a pumpkin.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the right ear goes out. And you're like, oh, did I just go deaf in the right ear, or did I just destroy the headphones?
I've seen your reaction in those moments a few times.
Yeah. Luckily, knock on wood, this particular headset has been good for quite some time. So this is actually backwards right now because the cable's on the wrong side. But whatever, it works beautifully. Like both sides have been great forever. These are the Sony monitors, so.
Yeah, and you want to be careful when you have those 1/8-inch thin, tiny cables, because
in this case, it's the spiral cable, so it's like it would be hard to roll over because it's the spiral. It could still happen. I mean, I've rolled over these before, but I'm just careful about how I don't roll around where the cable would be, and I avoid that problem. But you always advocate for the wireless headphones, but I'm like, I'm never. Farther away from my computer than this cable would let me get. that's like I can get from here to there.
Not for the actual audio mixing and performing. I need the wired ones, especially if I'm playing.
For sure.
The wireless will never be better than the wired ones when I'm playing. Mixing, I'm kind of crossing over these days. I'm still mixing on the wired side, but I do actually go double check with these new headphones. They have such great dynamics. I like to hear how the same mix there sounds coming through gaming headphones.
And even if there were a little latency with those headphones, even you could still mix with them having that extra, like you're saying, the extra sound in there.
Once I'm actually done performing and timing isn't an issue,
right?
Mixing over here, it's just like hitting play. If there's a second delay after I hit play, I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my point.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at the gear in the studio that we don't tend to talk about, but is actually sometimes more important than the other gear. At Ben Jordan over on YouTube, Freshy. And as I was searching through all those like hardware reviews and things, this one crept in there and popped up. And I'm like, you know what? I know exactly what gear he's talking about there because I used to be big on like my patch bay and I wish I had the MIDI options he found.
Nice. Let's check it out.
Important audio gear nobody talks about.
Hey there. Every year around this time, I like to make a wrap-up video that covers a bunch of useful tools that otherwise slip through the cracks of YouTube from my channel and others simply because they're too simple or boring. They're just not flashy enough to make an entire video about. But these boring things are often the oil for the gears in your studio that make your workflow drastically improve. You can call them life hacks or creative maintenance or tax write-offs. I guess I'm gonna call them 5 incredibly useful utilities for your studio that you might not know about. That's way too long for a YouTube title. So whatever I end up titling it, you see it right there. Not my genitals, but the title of the video. Obviously, you pervert. And as always, I have a few rules. Rule number 1, everything on this list has to be less than $500. Rule number 2, no product placement. You cannot buy your way onto my end of the year list. You must earn it. And rule number 3 is that everything is available for purchase at the time of this recording. By the way, some or even most of these things are available at Perfect Circuit. And if you use my affiliate link below, I will donate 100% of my affiliate income from them to the ACLU. I should really get better at monetizing this channel if I ever want to buy an electron microscope. All right, less yapping, more useful information. Let's go. The MRCC is so powerful that it's almost pointless to list all of the features and capabilities, and instead just say that if you have any conceivable MIDI problem or headache, this will fix it. Let's say, for example, that I want to use the app Fugue Machine on my iPad, and I want to send the MIDI data to my Disclavier robotic MIDI piano, but I also want to send the data to my modular back there. However, I would like the modular to only be hitting the bass notes and for my Disclavier piano to be hitting everything else. So I can actually set up a filter in the MRCC that will send all of the notes above C1 to the piano and all the notes below C1 to the modular. All right, now let's say that the hammers on my piano are striking too hard. I can actually use a filter on the MRCC to scale down the velocity for that MIDI channel. Let's say that the clock signal or MIDI CC is confusing the input on whatever I have it plugged into. I could filter that out as well. Or I could even have it generate an arpeggio sequence every single time that multiple notes are played. How about a less experimental example that I actually frequently use? I load up a session in FL Studio on my computer, and using the MRCC, I can control any and every single synth in this entire studio. It has a computer connection, it has 4 USB inputs and outputs, it has 5 DIN MIDI inputs, it has 4 MIDI 3.5 millimeter inputs. It has 10 DIN MIDI outputs. It has 4 3.5 millimeter MIDI outputs. You might be thinking that I have giant, thick bundles of MIDI cables running around this studio now, but I don't, because this has an Ethernet in and out. An Ethernet cable plugged into the MRCC can transmit and receive MIDI data up to, I believe, 32 feet without increasing any latency, and you would plug that into the remote or expander, both of which I believe cost less than 80 bucks. One of my favorite things about this is that there's a monitoring mode on this little screen where you can troubleshoot all of the things that are going on with your complicated MIDI setup. And it really feels like the people at Conductive Labs have had some baggage that many of us electronic musicians share when we deal with all of these fickle MIDI devices. Fortunately for us, they've turned their baggage into a solution, and we never have to buy these MIDI solutions boxes ever again. If you only have a few synths and this is overkill for you, Conductive Labs also makes an MRCC 880, which is a smaller and less powerful version that costs $200. Next. Oh, I know. You're like, really, Ben? A fucking EQ pedal? But there's something you should know about the original Empress EQ pedal. It's kind of a big deal. For years after it was discontinued, I've repeatedly seen it selling for upwards of $700 used. Yeah, that's right, an EQ pedal. So just last week, a new version was announced, the Make 2, and it has the same minimal circuitry, but this time it has a preamp with 30 decibels of boost. And I almost want to say it's not just an EQ, because there are analog Baxendale filters with really precise width controls that allow you to accentuate or reduce whatever you want in your sound. A really good EQ pedal can be a lo-fi pedal or a noise reduction pedal or a sound awesome pedal. And I know this sounds like hyperbole. I made a demo for this a few weeks ago. Let's check it out. This Kalimba's pickup has the worst ground hum, so let's just get rid of it. Hey, look, it's my favorite instrument, a bass charango. Let's put this cheap $3 pickup on it and see if we could make it sound decent. Let's take the worst sounding synth that I own and see what we can do. There are two versions of the Empress Para EQ Make 2, the regular, which sells for $275, and the deluxe, which sells for $350. Speaking of effects pedals, obviously they are traditionally designed for guitarists. They go on the ground and they have foot switches. And if a guitarist has enough effects pedals, they end up getting a really convenient pedal board. These days, pedals are increasingly being sold to synthesizer enthusiasts, and the modularity of a synth setup with effects pedals can get pretty messy, absurd, and inconvenient. So you can buy a patch bay. And Ricky Tinez, by the way, made an incredible video showing you a bunch of creative use cases for patch bays other than just a tidy way to plug things in. But still, for a desktop or modular synth setup, they're cumbersome. Well, fortunately for us, a small Australian outfit, DF Audio, makes a 40-point semi-matrix style desktop patch bay that immediately makes creative routing possible and easy. Another thing that's really awesome about this that you can't usually do with the patch bay is that you can sum your outputs, meaning that you could stack wet signals over a dry one and not have to deal with the knobs wherever your pedals are while you're using it. If you unscrew a few of these screws here and open up the case, there are dip switches for custom channel normalization. However, I believe that all of the new versions that are being made have those switches on the outside for increased convenience. The mini bay is quite affordable at $225, depending on currency conversions. Speaking of signal routing in Australian money, this thing is the ultimate why the fuck did it take so long for this to exist piece of gear. It's a DI or direct input box with 6 stereo inputs or 12 mono inputs and a big ass knob to choose between them. That's it. Pretty simple. Now feel free to pause this video and look around your studio and let your imagination run wild with how useful this actually is. Great example, right over there I had an ugly ass Mackie mixer stacked on top of some drawers, and all it was doing was allowing me to easily, well kind of easily, switch between sources for when I was streaming. It was creating noise in my signal, it was adding heat to my studio, and it was using power. Now I have this. There's a ground lift for each output, and it's worth noting that all of the components are really high quality and it's handmade in Sydney. The SS6 can be had for under $300. This might not be news to a lot of experienced musicians, and it's definitely not news to a lot of guitarists, because the guy working at the accessory counter at Guitar Center has been drilling it into their head for decades. Always use isolated power for each pedal in your pedal board. But a lot of people, electronic musicians without a pedal board, will just buy a bunch of these. Or worse yet, they will go on Amazon and they will buy one of these. Do not use this. use this, even if it's messy, because this is a great way to not only destroy your pedals, but every single noise that any of your pedals makes will be multiplied by the next one on the power chain. It's virtually impossible to get a clean signal this way. And for the love of God, do not buy this, because this is just this inside a case without the luxury of the rubber insulation between power sources, which will lead to an increased chance of a short circuit, which will, again, destroy your pedals. At a minimum, especially if you're spending money on nice pedals, what you want, or what you need, is isolated power. When you search isolated power supply for guitar effects on Amazon, you will see that it's actually pretty inexpensive. But it's not. It's not isolated power. The listing says that it is, but the listing is lying. And yeah, it's kind of outrageous. There are even recognizable brands like Donner or MXR that sell isolated power supplies, and in my experiences, they are either not isolated at all, or they are so poorly designed that the isolated sources are way too close together. In the case of isolated power sources, you're generally more or less getting what you pay for. And one that I've bought personally 3 times now is the Voodoo Labs Pedal Power ISO 5. And the reason I own 3 is because one goes in my touring rig, and then the other 2 are for pedals at home. And the reason I've bought this over and over again is because it simply does what it says it does. Allegedly, they are handmade in the USA and come with a 5-year warranty, but the real tell that it's a real isolated power bank is that it plugs into AC power. In general, my first piece of advice when buying a power bank would be to make sure that it is AC powered, because if it's DC powered or has a wall wart, then there's just too high of a risk that it's just daisy chaining that signal. And they are a bit pricey. I think that this costs around $200 to power 5 pedals, but in my opinion, it's honestly a worthy investment. I really wanted to include the Bastel Instruments MIDI looper in this video, but it's not really a utility as much as it's just a really fun way to loop MIDI and play over it. I use it enough, I am certain that I will find a place for it on this channel in the near future. And that is about it. I hope that this has improved some people's holiday lists. I apologize if it gave you gear acquisition syndrome, but at least it's not expensive gear acquisition syndrome. Of course, if you like this video, subscribe to my channel and let me know if there's anything you want me to cover in the future. And I now have a 24-hour streaming channel called Alpha Basic AI. There's a link in the description. Check it out. There's probably some generative music happening as we speak. And finally, if you want to support this channel and join an amazing community with monthly songwriting challenges, audio assets, unreleased music, and so on and so forth, you can join my Patreon. It costs as little as $1. All right, see you next time. Bye.
Oh, that's a freshie channel. I'm gonna be loving his MIDI stuff there. You know, that looper at the end. For MIDI guys like me, that's our loop. Looper to like guitarists. You get something like that, you can do stuff on the keyboard like real quick and just program the hardware to take care of it. It's so much better than trying to do it through software.
Now that one bar that he had early on that had all the different, programming all the different things coming through, so you can say, oh, anything that's coming in below C1 goes to this synth, and then the other things go here. That's pretty awesome.
Well, that first patch bay, the ultimate MIDI patch bay, I mean, I swear, even the $200 one, of course I would go get the big dog. I don't use as many keyboards as I used to, but at the same time, the network MIDI that it supports, that means I could be hitting this and triggering that over my Ethernet. And there is no latency with MIDI over Ethernet.
No, the connection, the data you're sending versus the connection pipe. I mean, you're good.
The entire room is wired with Ethernet. My longest MIDI cable, 12 feet, which if I want to keep it clean, it's not going to make it.
Exactly. But Ethernet's a good option for that. We use that we had that as for one of our digital snakes. When we do live sound, a lot of times we'll have an 8-channel snake on one side and a 16-channel snake to the back. But rather than having that big fat cable that's bringing 16 XLR connections all the way through, you can actually have just a box. with all those 16 connections in it, and then it just goes Ethernet from there back to the board. And if you do it like that, you're running something that's much simpler, but at the same time, there can also be, it's only that single point of failure as well.
Well,
Every signal is going through that one line.
don't scrunch that Ethernet
And
cord
don't
because
scrunch
you
the
can.
Yes. That's what you want to avoid.
Put tape over it, Glenn.
Yeah, tape, exactly. You tape over it, and then even we did something the other day with one of those metal pop-up stages, and the power coming off the generator was going right across where people were going to drive to come into the parking lot. So they put up basically, one of those. I guess it's about a foot wide section, by 3 feet across that you can drive over. That the cables can run through. It's like a cable trough. So we had one for this tire, one for that tire. Everything was fine.
And the power conditioning one that he mentioned, something that like a lot of nowadays with digital, there's not as much dealing with hums and power problems like we used to.
Right.
There's different noise that pops up in digital, which sucks, but it's not because of your power and your conditioning. But in the old days with analog, if you didn't have clean power going to your effects processors, your pedals, any one of them could be a nasty hum in your signal.
And they even had a, you've seen ground lifts where you can just have, hit a switch and it'll do a ground lift, and it usually gets rid of a ground hum like that. But there's also one that they had that was just something that you plug in, you plug your power from your amp into this little box, and then that box into the wall, and that gets rid of the hum.
It cleans some of that dirty power that when power is being split again, like band rooms tend to be. By the time your instrument's getting power, it's not necessarily getting a constant power that keeps it happy. Just like computers, that's what kills power supplies over time is I'm not getting a steady flow, and it doesn't shut off, but it can translate into less life of the equipment. And with music,
We didn't realize how much of a problem a lot of the power that we access for these gigs is until he actually got a power conditioner, where he spent the money to get a really nice power conditioner where it conditions the power that's coming in, and even if it drops down from 120, if it drops down to 110, 108, it'll regulate it. It'll give the boost of the extra, and it'll block it if it's going to be too much. But it'll also show you how much you're pulling amperage, and it'll also tell you now you're pulling their source is at 113 now, where you're expecting 120. A lot of times the gear would not have liked that if you didn't have the conditioner, so it's good to have it on there.
And considering a lot of your jobs and gigs tend to be in the spring and summer, those times where the power gets real dirty all across the country, like you really want to have a conditioner for your. If you pay $4,000 for a keyboard like I did, a power conditioner is worthy. Keeps it alive.
And when I left the house to go, we were supposed to start setting up at like 3:30. When I left the house, it was 102 degrees. So I knew it was going to be and it was outside gig, one of those metal pop-up stages. So I knew it was going to be just hot. And the gear was already starting to cook before we even got anything plugged in. So it was, one of those things where you got to keep everything in the shade until it's time to, okay, now break it all out, fire it all up, get started. We did not lose permanently, but one of the speakers overheated and basically shut off one of the monitors that the guitarist was using. So at one point I had to go run over and grab another monitor, swap it in real quick. It's just two cables, pop out, pop in, get it going again.
Well, and lesser things have killed speakers. I mean, speakers are not hard to destroy.
That one had been working hard and had been sitting in the sun, baking for hours on a 102 degree day in Jersey. So it's it gets ugly. It was humid and hot, and the speakers didn't like it. But again, only lost that one, and I'm sure it's fine. But we put it off to the side and marked it so we could test it thoroughly later. But it went out from heat.
Casualties. Oh,
didn't lose the mains, didn't lose the subs. We're good. We still had 3 other backup speakers that we could have gone to if we needed to, so we were fine.
We didn't save Private Ryan, but we at least stormed the beach.
Exactly. Then we got call outs too for being They're like, hey, there's our sound guy Glenn coming up to replace the monitor. Hey, thanks. Getting it all done.
Here comes the
Yep.
giant.
Got to get it done. And it was the band is like a Beatles cover band, so they do a lot of good stuff.
So that was at Ben Jordan, Freshie. Awesome gear he mentioned there. Not necessarily the ones that are the sexy, like, ooh, look at what I got in my studio, but the ones that I really wish I had every one of them.
And when he's talking about building a patch bay, like we were talking about the live rig that Mike and I take around there, he took the outs from the backs of the rig rather than having everything, rather than having half of the stuff plugged in the front and half the stuff plugged in the back. He brought everything that's supposed to plug into or out of the back around, in the rig or in the rack to the front. So now it's all, everything comes out the front so that, it's visual and you can just do everything right there. And then it just makes it much easier. And, that way everything, you don't have to have two, sets of things going out both sides. You can just have it like right up against the wall or almost against the wall and just have everything coming right out the front.
Yeah, Mikey's a man after my own.
Yeah, well, and if he doesn't find a solution, he'll build a solution. So that's where like he made that patch bay himself. Yeah.
And that's what a good studio owner, like whether you're building a tiny little studio in a corner or you're decking out a room, you have to be a little MacGyver sometimes. You're not necessarily going to do things always the official like way or route, but you'll get it done if you're good.
And that's the way to do it.
I've modified so many band rooms at this point. I was ready to build a studio by the time that the 90s came around.
Yep. And I've been building computers for decades. So like to me, building computers and putting together sound stuff, like it's all in the same vein, let's say.
Yeah, well, building the computers is 50% of the studio battle. It's like whatever I'm going to do to those walls is one thinking. Whatever we're going to put in this room to process, especially the audio gear versus the digital gear, the whole shift and how much room it actually takes. Now, a big ass studio is in a little box.
Yep. You also got to worry about sound dampening and things. If you're talking about studio where you're gonna have multiple people playing live, you want to get a clean signal from this guy, a clean signal from that guy. Get everything going out.
You shape the room for the vocalists and the drummers. The other guys that are plugging in with line signals. Okay, if you're miking their amps, if you're really like capturing the amps impact on the room situation, you might shape the room for them too, but singers and drummers are the reason that studios build their rooms the way they do.
And a lot of times if you're going to be doing vocal layers that you want to get pristine vocal layers, you want the headphones, you want nothing in the room other than the person singing so that you're getting a clean signal, rather than just open band room idea where in an open band room you can get an isolated vocal signal, but there's going to be room noise behind it. So
yeah. You don't want to have to incorporate that into the mix if it's not meant to be there.
Then you can't take the other parts out. So bass hit a wrong note somewhere, you can't remove that, because it's also in the other parts that everybody else heard. So
we're working our way into the mixing segment for our last video. This is a mix tricks. I want to come up with a little mix tricks segment because most of the questions I get in the back tend to be mix orientated, sound engineering, the things we do after we lay the tracks down. And Dr. Bob, the music surgery, his approach is kind of like how I see it when all the tracks are in and now slicing and dicing and cutting into the tracks feels like surgery.
And again, stressing the importance of having things well dialed in when you capture them. So you don't have, you know, tracks that are super, super low that you're going to have to pump really loud and bring the noise floor up. You don't have things that are super, you know, super loud that you're going to have to cut off and truncate. You want to make sure that you're getting well dialed in signals.
Which those are the things that you would normally expect, like your typical scenarios when you're at the mixing stage and the mastering. There's certain things you're always expecting, like every song comes with like some of that. This video was interesting because it's about identifying the things that you don't necessarily hear, but they're affecting what you're trying to do.
And one that you always mention is the conflicting reverbs. That's one thing that is, you know, you won't necessarily see it somewhere and you won't necessarily notice it until you put all the components together. But once they're all together, it can start jumping out at you.
And how the reverb gets used as far as room, establishing the room of the song or utilizing it as a glue so that these tracks that weren't recorded in the same room sound like they're in
And sometimes just a vocal plate or something, you know, specific for vocals. Like sometimes it'll be a specific for a vocal, specific for a snare, for example, and then something as the glue, like you said, that just ties everything together.
Yeah. A lot of times when it comes to vocals, they might have unique reverbs that aren't on the other tracks. They're just there for the vocal effect.
And even certain songs
versus the room glue. Like, you know, room glue reverb is meant to represent the room that the song was performed in, even if it wasn't.
It makes it sound as though it makes your brain see that room or make the elements all feel like they belong in that room. It's like seeing a photograph and seeing all the, you know, the light source coming from the same direction for all the elements. It helps you, you know, see it all as one picture.
Yeah, for an effect like that, when it's gluing, the nice thing with the bussing is that I can control the amount of signal. So I want to use the room, but as far as every track goes, how much signal they send to the room, you can dial it in, and it eventually sounds like all those parts are in the same place.
Nice. Music surgery.
Yeah. Yes. At Bobby Huff. This is a fun channel when it comes to mixing and getting better at it, and the little tricks that you have to do in order to get through a mix and get to the master. And then, damn, what am I going to do on the master to get to the final conclusion? At Bobby Huff, he's constantly covering it, and he plays a doctor on TV.
Nice. Take it away, Dr. Bobby.
Yes. Now he's going to show us how to fix what we can't hear.
Right.
So, are you paranoid that there are things going on in your mix that are messing it up that you absolutely can't hear? Let's fix that. Next on Music Surgery with me, Dr. Bob. Hey, before we get started, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Also, there are tons of great samples from my personal library below in the description of every video. They're all pay what you want. And lastly, if you want me to work on your music, hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com. Well, it happens. You're doing all you can to make the mix great, but there are things going on that are ruining it that you're unaware of. Here are two big ones that are easily solved. Watch this.
All right, you guys, don't be paranoid. We will get to the bottom of this. Let me show you two culprits that happen to almost every song. Let me play you this, and this is something that will definitely ruin your mix. Here we go.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I'm getting this mood right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise. The way you look.
Okay, we're concentrating on the lead vocal. There's two ways that you can ruin your mix by not hearing things properly. One, this way, The first way I'm showing you is you're not hearing it because you haven't trained your ear to hear it. The other way is if your system or your speakers isn't producing the right amount of information to show you there's a problem. But this problem is because your ear may not be in tune to it, which are a lot of problems in mixing and music and production that we can easily solve once we're aware of it. So I've got all my lead vocal here going into a vocal group, which is right here. So let me play you this solo.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise.
Okay, ballad, so we want some nice delay and reverb on the vocal. But what you'll hear, especially listen to the second line.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food.
We want that much reverb and delay to make the vocal sit in the track in kind of a groovy kind of way, but we have so much that it's starting to interfere with the lyric. So what I've done is I put a compressor at the beginning of each one of these, and they are side chained by my lead vocal here. So you'll see that when the lead vocal starts to sing or activate these, it will bring the level of the delay and the reverbs down on each one until he stops singing, which will release the reverb and the delay to open up more in the holes between when he sings.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise. The way you're looking.
So I've also made the release pretty fast, so when he's done singing, it opens up quickly to hear that delay and that reverb. Let me put it in the track now to where it makes more sense. So let's listen now to the vocal with these compressors in it, where you'll hear the vocal much more legibly, but when he's done singing, you'll hear the delay and the reverb pop out more.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise. The way.
And here it is without that trick.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise.
Listen again with this trick back in and listen to the line, especially, I'll be praying that that sun don't rise.
As long as there's moonlight shining down on you and I getting this food right, I'll be praying that sun don't rise. The way you're looking covered in the midnight, oh baby I don't wanna go home. As long as there's moonlight.
So we're making room by side chaining from this lead vocal to each one of these compressors, that is smashing down the reverb or smashing down the delay till he stops singing and it opens up. Great trick. You can use it on any kind of song. It just makes the lyric more legible. Now, when you go back to your own mixes or other people's mixes, you're going to hear this and you're going to go, oh man, they didn't use that ducking trick. The vocal is a little bit wet. So mixing is a lot of times training your ear to hear something that you didn't hear before, and you can recognize that in your own work. The other trick I want to show you here is listen to the drum fill into this chorus.
As long as there's moonlight shining down.
You hear the tom, boom, nice sounding tom, but listen to what happens in the low end when I solo that and I solo the bass at the same time. Really weird clash in the low end there. Whoa. So what I do is I go to the tom, and we don't need the length of that tom ring because we've got the length of the tom in the reverb.
As long as there's moonlight.
Hear how nicely that gets out of the way there. So, I mean, you can truncate that tom or any toms like I did there. You can do a multi-band compressor to, you can do any kind of compressor to bring the tail of that tom down afterwards. This seems to be the easiest way for me because I can see it and I can control it really easy.
As long as there's moonlight. As long as there's moonlight.
And if that takes too much off, just turn the reverb up.
As long as there's moonlight.
Now that next to the bass, much cleaner. It gets out of that way of that note. So these are really two ways that you can start to identify things. These are two techniques that can help you in your mix. But as we grow and we listen to other mixes and we watch stuff on YouTube, not only are we compensating for maybe what we can't hear in our own speakers because you don't have a sub or you don't have a big woofer, you know that if you do this to the toms, it's going to get out of the way. And then the other technique is just being aware. I mean, there's lots of things in life we're not aware of. We don't notice until we're aware of it, and then we notice it. And that's a really big one with the lyrics and the reverb and delay. So these are two things that I do in every mix that really help to clean things up for more punch and clarity.
Well, there you go. A muddy bottom and a muddy vocal. Two of the biggest offenders in any song, but easily resolved with these techniques. Thanks so much for watching. Give me some comment, love, and a thumbs up below. And hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com if you want to say hello or you want me to work on your music. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you the next time the doctor's in.
Woof, woof, woof.
Oh, the doctor's in.
The big woof.
Yes, Big Woofer is your new nickname.
I can accept that. And they get the little kitty right there.
Oh, yeah, well, she got curious.
Curiosity. Oh, be careful. Be careful.
And you see those subtle little tricks there when it comes to like his echo control, because sometimes I hear tracks where I like the echo they're using, but because they're not actually bringing it in and out, there are bars where it's like, oh, that echo's starting to clash like reverb. And just that little automation approach like can help fix that common problem I'm starting to hear across BandLab. A lot of people are loving the echo on their voices. We're gonna echo and echo and echo again, and there's lines where you want it, and you want it for the tail. And if you're going through a bunch of lines and the echo's constantly going, eventually it becomes that mush that he's talking about.
And that's the thing, is it comes to, you know, tweaking the delay, tweaking how strong it is, tweaking how much it's going to kick in. When Mike's doing live mixing like that, he'll actually, for certain songs, like there's a certain Bon Jovi song or certain songs, he'll know
he'll do it
manually push it for just that one line where it needs to like trail off and like have it hanging in there, and then you want to kill it so that it's not there as soon as they kick into the next part. But it's something that you gotta know when it's coming. You gotta know what you're looking for. It's gotta already be preset so that you just kick it in and, have the delay tap tempo at the right time, and then, kick it in, kick it out. It can be annoying to do that live, but knowing it to spot is really hits nice. That hits nice.
But if you've got a sound engineer doing that for you manually, then you're special.
Yeah, true. And you'll hear it, and they notice for sure. Like when you see them, you see their facial reactions after they sing that line, and they hear that come back, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's how you get the rockers in.
Exactly. And it comes down to, like you were saying, what they're hearing, because he feeds them in the monitors. So it makes no difference what's going out to the house. It's all about what they're hearing. Are they hearing what they need to hear in their monitor in order to give the performance they need? Because most singers would want to hear a lot of their own voice so that they can hear themselves over what's going on around them on stage and the crowd and everything else. It's to have clarity and be able to hear that note and hit it. But you also need to hear the vocals of the others mixed in so that you can harmonize together, or you need to hear the instruments so that you can be, on timing and all that.
Yeah, mixing for live is actually more tricky than mixing in the studio. With live, monitoring and all of that dynamics becomes a whole different kind of mixing than cleaning up tracks.
And people just starting out, they can end up with a whole lot of feedback and other problems, because if they have something turned up too loud in a monitor, and all of a sudden it starts feeding back from a microphone, you have to know which of those 6 monitors are feeding back from which of those 6 microphones. And if you don't, it can be a very unsettling experience for anyone in the room.
Well, fortunately, you deal with in the bands. Like, they know how feedback gets caused, and they probably did it once, got a stinky eye from Mike, and didn't do it again.
It all comes down to how you dial things in. Like at the very beginning, like once he gets things fired up, he'll have a signal coming through the board, just like playing from an iPhone or whatever into the board, so that there's a signal, and he can just go make sure he's got something in the subs. Okay, dial it up, dial it back. Then he'll go mains. Then he'll go check each of the monitors to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be, as far as his board is concerned. And then once he's got all that dialed in, he can bring everything back down, bring the mains down, have everybody go to their, microphone checks or instrument checks, and just go there. And then instead of having it coming out into the house and just blasting as they're going check, 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 he'll have them saying check, 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 but it's not coming out. He's just seeing how much signal's coming in and dialing it in and telling them to just keep going, then give it to them in the monitor so that they can just have it in front of them. Once you've got everybody dialed in their own monitor, then it's okay. Then how much of whatever else does anybody need? Because most people don't need a lot else. They just need that vocal and the other vocals. Some people, they want, the bass player, he just wants to hear the kick, or he just wants to hear the far side guitar player, or whatever. Like, everyone will have a different mix of what they would like to hear in their monitor. But for the most part, it's, a pretty standard set of things that they would be interested in.
Yeah.
Get it dialed in, and it gives them the ability to give the better performance because they're hearing what they need to.
You're the conductor behind the mixer.
We try to take the technology out of their way, or technology problems out of their way. We try to make it so that they can just do their thing with their voice and their instrument, and not have to worry about all the other stuff that we're doing to make them sound good.
Well, and that's also why, like, a good engineer, why it's good to have musicians be musicians and engineers be engineers. It's not to say that the musicians don't make good engineers and things like that, but when you're handling both sides there, you don't always write the best songs because you're too caught up thinking on that side, and vice versa. When you're mixing, you don't want to be too close to the song, because sometimes you might not do something you're supposed to do in the mix because you want to hear this louder, even though it's not meant to be.
Yep. And even in a simple thing, like on Monday, we had a gig where it was just 2 guys playing acoustics and singing, and they were just so happy to not have to set up all the sound gear themselves. Because like on a gig that size, normally they just have to do all the setup themselves, do all the mixing, get everything dialed in, and then put on the musician hat and go be the musicians for a while, and then break everything down and take it all away. Where we took all of that off of their plate, so all they have to do is just show up, play, sound check, done.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. They loved it.
Yeah, I would love to just take the keyboard, go somewhere, plug it in, and somebody else worry about the signal. I can take care of the keyboard.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we bring DIs for that. So, as far as keyboard players go, it's like we can just feed you 2 cables, give me your 2 outs, and we go from there. If you want to have more involved, you can get more involved. But like usually we just go from there, and then he dials it in from the board. if you want to have your amp behind you for your own monitoring, that's fine. But we can also just feed your signal into the monitor that's right there, for you. And
Well, with today's monitoring solutions, I would definitely go with one of those like in-ear. There's some cool shit for
Oh, yeah.
stage musicians now.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing is we do have people like, a lot of times we'll have, 6 different, monitor mixes because, the lead singer is going to have in-ears and then the bass player's got in-ears, but then we're also using a floor monitor for the keyboard player and for the guitar player and for the drummer. But each of those is a separate mix, so he can dial in however much of each for each person. And if anybody needs adjustments throughout, like they can just look over to me and just kind of give a signal, like, keyboard louder in my ear, like they can give me hand signal like that. I can go run over to Mike and make sure he gets it because he's usually busy looking in the pad, actually making changes. So I'll see the signals before he will. So if we're together, then I can spot the signals and tell him and he can make the changes.
Glenn understands the difference between stinky face and smiley face.
and you can tell, like, they're starting to say, like, they want something up. And then as soon as, like,
yes,
I tell
if
him,
I
they
see
adjust it.
this or I see this.
Yeah. But we try to be subtle about it, too, because, like, you don't need to, totally disrupt their flow either. We don't want them to get pulled out of the moment of making music to tell us that they need more of this or less of that. But if we can get that information out there, or if they can get the information to us, then we can make that change and then they can, be more effective with what they're doing or be happier about what they're doing.
If the drummer twirls his sticks 3 times, he wants it louder.
Yep. And a lot of times with the drummer, it would just be a verbal cue where he actually had a vocal mic back there too. So he could just, he could just ask for if anything, if he needed it.
Well, it's a good thing you're not trying to read a drummer's facial expressions because that would just be chaos.
Sure. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was good mixing tips when it comes to something I tend to run into a lot, especially that echo conundrum. And,
sidechain ducking, that's nice. I like that.
Taming the reverb, especially for like certain things like toms or certain drums where you don't want the reverb to be out of control. You want it to kind of shape that drum.
We do end up with a ringing tom like that sometime as a room issue when you're trying to, somebody's getting the drum set up and as they're doing a sound check, dum, 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 and then you go, dum, dum, and you're like, what the heck was that? And it's like
the same
that
thing
one tom.
The same thing can happen with the snare side. You either get like a bite, sometimes it's a sharp like bite. That's that snare needs to be talked to.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it could be just some element in the room just happens to have that exact frequency is something that it happens to, harmonize with. So as soon as you like hit that tom, like, boom, it's always that same tone, and that same tone always builds. You have to all of a sudden duck that frequency out, but you can only do so much when you're in a live situation like that because it's the drum making the sound. It's not something that you're sending out through the speakers. You can take that completely out of the speakers, but it's still happening in the room, so it can still be problematic.
I can't control the whole room.
Yeah. And in a case like that, you could have them, like sometimes they have those little gels that they'll put on a drum to kind of tame the head so that it doesn't ring as much. And something like that can help with that. But
taming the drums, live gear and taming the drums, those are themes that I'm going to add to the list.
Yeah, nice.
But thank you at Dr. Bobby Huff. That is some mixing tips that I actually found useful. I hope everybody else did too. If they are fighting with some of those, we don't always hear it. We just know the mush is there. And
even just the way he isolated that, looking at, okay, just solo the drums that are clashing with that bass part and, checking that out and then realizing that that's where he needed to look at something.
Well, I think
that's the kind of experience.
I think he recognized the culprit because he understands like all the different effects going on and which ones would be causing this, which it is like surgery sometimes. Sometimes you got to go in that track, slice it open and see what's making it mush.
Yeah. And a lot of times it can be, if it's not a matter of just taking a couple things out and seeing if that fixes it, it can also be a question of starting from nothing and building the song up, track by track when you're soloing, solo this, and this, and see how that sounds. Okay, they're fine. Now add this other piece in, now add this other piece, and then you'll find the layer that eventually causes the interference.
Yeah, you probably see some of that in some of his videos. He covers a lot of different mixing tips. This was just a teaser.
Yeah. And usually just starting from a simpler arrangement is useful. Like if you're going to start with, 30 or 40 or 50 tracks, it's going to be, trickier. But if you're going to start with only a few tracks, it's much easier to get things tamed and get a good foundation, a good start.
Yeah. Well, chances are you did some pre-mixing before you're at that actual final engineering and mastering stage.
Yep.
If you're doing your pre-mixing good, by the time you get here and you're trying to isolate where's the mush coming from, it gets pretty easy if you do it over and over.
Exactly. And even sometimes it is, just tuning out a certain frequency in the room or whatever. Like if there's something specific that's causing a problem that you've seen enough times before, you know exactly how to fix it.
And chances are, like these engineers, they're EQing at the beginning of the process, during the process, maybe on a certain track, and again at the end of the chain. EQing is not a one process or phase kind of thing.
Yep. And that's one where even just the easy steps that I take when we, capture something on the PreSonus, like we'll just, we'll get something captured from the PreSonus and we, like you said, we'll just get it recorded and make sure we have a good level, get it in there. Once it's recorded, I just go do a load of preset and say, okay, this is a warm piano or it's a bass guitar, whatever. And just by loading up a preset of what that instrument is, it gives you that whole channel strip of, as a default, as a starting point. And it just sounds, immediately better than it sounded on the initial recording, just because it's already custom tailored towards that kind of a signal. If it's a conga signal, it's going to sound a certain way. And there's going to be like a low cut, and there's going to be certain things that are blocked out, certain frequencies that would normally ring or be problematic. And they're all dialed in already on the preset. So by starting with that preset and then saying, okay, is it appropriate completely, or do you need to tweak it a little bit here or there to, fix some things? But it just makes everything sound 10 times better right off the bat when you say, okay, that's a bass on that channel, that's a guitar on that channel, that's a keyboard on that channel, that's a vocal on that channel. Once you get those in there, those presets are already a great starting point. And then from there, it already sounds great the way things fit together.
That's what I love with Cakewalk, the Pro channel. It does have a bunch of built-in templates that are specific to certain types of vocals, certain types of guitars, different percussions. And if you start with one of their templates there, because you are dealing with that instrument, you pretty much get the perfect starting point to just tweak.
Yeah. And a lot of times with a piano, it'll be a flat signal because, the piano has such a wide range. You're not trying to drop out the low end. You're not trying to drop out the high end. Certain patches that you're going to use on the piano might be too loud or too quiet in the high or low ends, but you can adjust those manually as you get there. And that's why a lot of times you'll go with a volume pedal if you're playing stuff like that, because you can adjust on the fly if you need to for that.
Yeah, my piano patches I don't have to fight as much with, but like drum kits, basses, certain brass sometimes, depending on high brass or low brass.
Right, sure. Yeah. But all the brass is good.
Speaking of, we'll have to have a brass night soon. We've never had one. We've played around with the saxophone and which actually isn't a brass. It's wind, folks.
That's right.
But a dedicated brass night, that's one that I would like to go dive into.
For sure.
Next week we'll probably be wagging it. We'll have gotten in some of the tracks, and I think we're gonna have some stuff to listen to.
Nice. I like it. Getting the contest underway.
Yeah. So tune in next week for some of that, and not sure what's going on tomorrow. Might be some more WAG stuff. We're gonna have to go check with Ange after and give her a holler.
Yes, indeed. But thanks as always for coming and joining us on a Thursday with Talkin Shhh I.T. Thanks.
Special Gear Whores night.
Gear Wars night.
Night, everyone.
Take care.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in. educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam, with the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking